Welcome to the World of Horror podcast with Mom and Mac. This is the podcast where we share our love of international horror. Everyone has their fears, but we are not afraid of subtitles. Before we get into it, fair warning, these discussions will include spoilers and language which may not be suitable for all listeners. Let's move on to our first segment, Mom and Mac Chat. Hi Mac, how's it going?
Hi Mom, it's going well. What do you have to tell me?
Well, I'm deep in Fargo. So there was a movie called Fargo, and then they made a show of it. And the first season is a masterpiece. The show is like the movie, and there are references to the movie. It's just like so much fun. Well, now we're in season 5. And we've done the 1970s. We've done, this latest one takes place in 2019. They moved it to Kansas City in the 1950s for a season. They've done it all. And so now I just watched, I've got like 1.5 episodes left of season 5. Don't you dare, kitty cat.
Oh.
Did you hear that?
I did.
So while I'm waiting for the last show of the season to come out, I went back to season 4 because I had never seen it. And once you get to season 4, they're quoting all kinds of Coen Brothers movies, not just Fargo. They're quoting like Raising Arizona. They're quoting Barton Fink. They're quoting like all these other, movies, and it's really fun. And then in the 5th season, Jennifer Jason Leigh is in it.
Love her.
Okay. I love her too, but she looks weird. She got some weird plastic surgery. I don't know what she did.
That's a shame.
I know. But she was in a Coen Brothers movie back in the day called Hudsucker Proxy, so that's just hilarious all by itself.
I gotta look. Jennifer Jason Leigh, 2023.
Not only that, I think Barry Keoghan had plastic surgery done on his face, and he's like 30 or something. What are you doing? So how many Coen Brothers movies have you seen?
I know I've seen Fargo and Raising Arizona. Let's see. Okay. Haven't seen that. I never saw The Big Lebowski, but like I feel like by proxy of like being alive, I have seen it. I watched a lot of these also. I feel like I watched when I was younger with you. Like I know I saw Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, but I don't remember it. Have seen No Country for Old Men. I was like in the room when you watched A Serious Man, but I did not watch it really.
Nobody likes A Serious Man except me. Like I'm the only one who likes A Serious Man, but I really like A Serious Man. I really liked Barton Fink when it came out, but I think if you've seen Raising Arizona and Fargo and No Country for Old Men, you've probably seen the best ones. Miller's Crossing is also really good, and their first one called Blood Simple is really good. But they've gone some interesting directions, But
it's just good to experiment.
It's just so fun. Oh, and the other thing about season 4 of Fargo, this is like so like niche, weird, like why would anybody care? But season 4 of Fargo, the cast is incredible, including Ben Whishaw, who is the voice of Paddington Bear.
Which is the best character of like our human history.
Basically, yes. And so to see him in human form as a sweet, sweet man, gosh, I just was, I don't know. It was just so lovely. So anyway, in the 5th season, Jon Hamm plays a character that is pure evil, and it's so interesting.
I feel like Jon Hamm, not that I've super kept up with his career, but I have noticed that he has strayed more towards like, which I mean, it's not like he played like a good guy in Mad Men, but he's really been going very evil routes from what I can see. And I feel like that must be so fun. Like, I feel like evil characters must be just the funnest to play. I don't know what that says about me, but every time, because I do this, I help my friend every Friday. We read lines from this video game that's basically like an audio drama called Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. Well, not just Ace Attorney. There's a bunch of games, and I love to play the word. Like anytime there's a horrible man, because I have like the deepest voice on the cast. I'm like, me, please. It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. I think it would be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I just do. Oh, the other thing I've been watching a lot is The Curse, which is a show on Showtime with Nathan Fielder. Do you know who that is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then Benny Safdie, the director, but he's acting in the show. And Emma Stone. And fuck me, is she great.
Yeah. I've wanted to watch that.
Oh, gosh. I think there's one more, but you should. It's really great. And just what she's doing, it's like a masterclass because it's like two or three different layers. Like you've seen real people do this where they're fake, but they're trying to appear like they're genuine. And then there's like insecurity on top of that or something. Just like this like really complicated moment. And she's doing it all throughout this series. And it's just really, really cool to watch. I'm like, how the fuck? And so I sort of got a little obsessed and I was like watching a lot of interviews and stuff. And she's just in this Yorgos Lanthimos film called Poor Things, which I really want to see as well. And she plays like a Frankenstein creature.
Ooh.
So, yeah. So she said, I thought that role was like the most complicated until I did this role. And she's 35, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love her.
She's amazing. And then the other person, back to Fargo, in the season 4 is Jessie Buckley. The Irish actress. She's in Men, which we're going to cover on the podcast, but she was in I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And, and yeah. She's got this fantastic Minnesota accent. And she's got this great comedic timing. And she's also just, I don't think she misses Jessie Buckley. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So if we got her, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Emma Stone together in the same film,
it would be magic.
I think so.
Watching great acting when you can really like see it and just feel it, it's like a euphoric experience. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to get like so obsessed. I've been watching a lot more anime than I have been watching movies lately, but I have a lot of, I mean, there's like a bajillion Japanese voice actors, obviously, but a lot of people play in a bunch of different shows. And so I have to like pause the show and just I like straight up have made like a spreadsheet of my favorite people to see what shows they're in and what roles they are. And some people, I find voice acting to be so amazing too, because it's like you have to convey, you can't control how they animate the character to look. And sometimes the animation doesn't always match up with like the energy these people are giving. And the energy is just so amazing and that they can just convey so much, or some people sounding different in every single role. It's like, it's incredible. Acting is awesome.
Yeah, and voice acting, I think you're right. It's like a whole other thing.
Yeah.
That I'm very excited to be teaching critical thinking this semester. I think it's going to be such a blast. I just keep thinking of all these basically activities, to do with them and games and stuff. And so
that's awesome.
It's going to be a blast.
And critical thinking is what needs to be taught. I mean, I know I've said this to you a million times, but like, I mean, that should be like mandatory learning at this point.
Yeah.
Like media literacy and critical thinking should be like, you need to take this to pass school.
Well, and it's so weird because I had my own preconceived notions. I thought they were going to all be teenagers in my class, and they're not. Actually, there's an incentive for people who are in the medical, who want to go into the medical field at my school. You get an extra point. So there's an incentive. So I get all these people from the medical fields, and I'm like, oh, gee, okay. Well, now I got to like sort of rearrange what I was thinking about doing to sort of have more case studies and stuff having to do with like medical stuff.
That's awesome though, because that's
I
again,
think it's going to be so fun.
I just watched this TikTok of this doctor with a medical degree who was not asking the Black community, just asking, in my opinion, was only asking for white people's opinion of why he saw that a lot of Black patients would always talk to someone on the phone during an examination. And but again, was not asking his fellow, Black doctors or the patients themselves. And then so I saw a whole bunch of, both doctors and patients, Black people, saying like, well, it's because of all the fucking medical malpractice that exists, and you would know that if you had actually, like, what's this fake, what is this sort of fake question and confusion you have because you're not even doing the work to find a real answer from the people it's affecting, and I don't know, I find that so frustrating. So yeah, people if you work with anyone, and then especially if you're going to be like a fucking doctor responsible for people's health, this should be like mandatory learning,
Yeah, I think that's like really, really awesome. Yeah, because I guess the assumption is they're just rude.
Yeah,
right? They're just rude. Like they're not like us white civilized people, who know manners. They are just rude, and it's that whole othering and like dehumanizing that we do all the time when we don't ask somebody directly the question like, what's going on right now? Can you help me to understand? And that's literally what I'm doing tomorrow in class. Here's my plan. I'm so excited. I haven't been this excited in a while, but my plan for tomorrow is to try to come up with some sentences that include words that can be read in two different ways.
Ooh.
And then have them engage in conversation and give, the one person the ambiguous term sentences and the other person some clarifying questions they can ask. So just to make sure, like, we're talking about the same thing.
I love that.
I know. I think it's going to be so fun.
Because, like, that's the crux of it, is just communicating.
Yes.
It literally solves all issues. Like, if you look on any, like, am I the asshole post or any sort of, like, relationship question, the answer is always, well, maybe you should talk to them. Mm-hmm. Maybe you should bring this. Maybe you shouldn't be talking to Reddit about this. Maybe you should talk to your partner. Stupid.
Do you want to get into it, Mac?
Let's get into it.
The invitation. The brief plot summary from IMDb says, when a man accepts an invitation to a dinner party hosted by his ex-wife, the unsettling past reopens old wounds and creates new tensions. This was directed by Karyn Kusama, and it was written by Phil Hay and Matt Manfredi. Starring Logan Marshall-Green, Tammy Blanchard, Michiel Huisman. Do you see how I did
the phonetic?
I did the phonetic. I always call him Michael. That's not his name. It's Michiel. Emayatzy, Corinealdi, Lindsay Burge, Michelle Krusik, Mike Doyle, Jay Larson. What a sweetheart. He plays Ben. And of course, our sweet angel, one of the very saints of the show, John Carroll Lynch.
We love you, John Carroll Lynch.
Speaking of Fargo, plays
Is
Norm.
He in there?
Plays Norm in the original Fargo. Cinematography by Bobby Shore and edited by Plummy Tucker. What a cool name.
That's a great name.
It was released on March 13th, 2015 at South by Southwest and April 8th, 2016 in the U.S. It has a running time of 100 minutes. How do you feel about the runtime, Mac?
Love this runtime, and I think this is my third time watching this movie, and this was by far the best watch, and I would maybe now put this in my like top 10 favorite movies ever, honestly. Like, it's a masterpiece, I think.
I really love it so much too. I think it's really great, and I almost wanted to flip it and do this one second.
Because I do feel like this one is stronger of the two.
It's so darn good. So I'm a little obsessed with this movie, actually, and Quinn and I actually covered this. I'll put the episode number in the show notes, but we did a show on cults, and so I've already discussed a lot of these points, but I haven't ever discussed them with you, Mac, and so, and it's been a while. But my thesis about this movie, which you can hear a lot more of on that other episode, is that this is actually a love story between Will and Kira. And one of the pieces of evidence for that is that the first line of the movie is Will, spoken by Kira, and the last line of the movie is Kira, spoken by Will. But we have, on our opening of this film, we have this couple, and they're driving to Eden and David's house, and they live in the Hollywood Hills, and they're going to Will's ex-wife Eden's house, and she's hosting a dinner party, and we learn that Will and Eden divorced after the accidental death of their young son, Ty. We don't know that right away, but we know that something obviously terrible happened about 2 years ago. We also learn that Eden met her new husband at this grief support group while Eden and Will were still married, and Will says something like, "You could have put odds on our divorce, I guess." And Kira says, "People don't think like that." And Will says, "Yes, they do." And then he hits a coyote. And as I think viewers of this movie and Get Out, among others, may have surmised, if you hit an animal on the way somewhere, you should definitely turn right back around and go back home.
It's definitely an omen. And I love the beginning, the introduction of this theme, because the coyote is like close to death, so he decides to kill it with a tire iron, which is pretty brutal. But I love this introduction of the idea of like putting something out of its misery. I feel like that the movie opens with that just sets the tone for the whole thing and just puts that idea in your mind.
And the fact that it's pretty disturbing, actually. And when Will gets back in the car, I think he says Jesus, he's clearly been through it, and he had asked Kira to sit in the car, and we see through her perspective, through the windshield, what happened. But yeah, you can only imagine the brutality that it takes to kill a coyote.
Tire iron. I was amazed that more blood didn't get on him. That's movie magic.
So when they get to the house, it's quite lovely and huge. And Kira says, "This was your house?" And Will says, "A lot of money in Eden's family wasn't ever mine."
Put a pin in that.
So as Will walks in to the foyer and, one of the rooms on the ground floor, he has a flashback to looking in on his son completing a jigsaw puzzle.
And I wanted to say, when I mentioned this to my mom in a message, I don't want to I'm not equating losing a pet to losing a child. I know it's a completely different experience, but I feel like after losing Branwen, this movie all kind of made a lot more sense to me. And for instance, like the room that I record in and work in is the room that we put her down in. And so I'm way better now. I've also moved things around, which helps. But for the first little bit, every time I looked in the space where she was put down, I saw that moment, and it was really hard to be in this room for a very long time. And so this just recontextualized this whole movie of how difficult it is for this man to go back into this house he hasn't been in for 2 years and now see the same spaces that his child was in. I feel like it's so impactful now. And I just didn't appreciate how heavy that was until now, honestly.
Yeah, and you had said that, and then I looked at the Letterboxd reviews, and just like always, there are these kind of flippant reviews, and I just wonder, about that, and about if you had never lost anybody or anything of significance in your life, and you watch this, would it just not hit you at all?
I think so.
I mean, I definitely thought of the people that I've lost. I'm watching this movie, and I've watched it a bunch, and likewise, I think this was like my favorite watch too. And I've liked it from jump, but I think there's just a lot here, and it has a lot of great rewatch value. So I don't know, Wojos, if you watched it and you didn't really get anything out of it, I would encourage you to go back and try again and see if it hits you any different.
And I honestly found myself enjoying the build-up way more than the horror. Like, I think that I always thought this movie was a great horror film, but I found myself just enjoying, I feel like I've never said this in my life. Like, the build-up was like, I think is actually significantly better. Not even that the ending is bad in any way, but like, there's so much heart in this beginning part. And I think there's a lot of really, it's not shallow in any way. Like, I don't know. It meant a lot to me watching this, I guess.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. So we meet the other guests. We have Tommy's boyfriend Miguel, and friends Ben, Claire, and Gina, who were all friends with Will and Eden when they were a couple. And this is the first time the group has been together in all this time. Gina mentions that her boyfriend Choi is running late. Fucking Choi!
Classic Choi.
And then Eden introduces Sadie, a girl she and David met in Mexico, who is now staying with them. Okay, this might be the first hint that there's something
weird,
a little bit weird going on. But
it's already weird to invite a rando, but this lady is like bizarre.
I think I gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd. Sorry, spoiler, Wojos, if you if that bothers you that I told you that right away. But I don't think this film is perfect, and I have some problems with Sadie, but we'll get to it. Eden hugs Will and wipes away a small bead of coyote blood. Eden is also, first of all, she looks gorgeous.
She has an amazing white gown on.
Yes.
Like, she looks, I don't even know how to describe, but she just looks like a boho goddess or something.
Yeah, she just, like a goddess. That's pretty good. But she's just like so happy to see Will, and it's a little weird. Like, if I, got that kind of reception from an ex, I think I'd be like, what's happening?
In front of your new partner also?
Yeah, and the weirdness kind of continues when David comes in. And
fucking David.
and hugs Will, and then hugs Kira. And, it's all a little strange.
And by the way, David looks like David and Will both have, like, the white guy kind of long hair behind the ears look and a beard. So when David enters the room, it's actually such a like darkly comedic moment of just seeing these two next to each other. Like, okay, is this kind of like your replacement husband?
And I had never thought of that, because Logan Marshall-Green is blonde and Michiel is, dark-haired guy. I had never thought of that, but you were like, discount husband or something. And I was like, what?
But like personality-wise, they could not be more different.
No, for sure. Another thing I wanted to mention is that just personally, blonde guys don't usually do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen this movie a ton, as I've said. This time, I thought Logan Marshall-Green was so sexy. I don't know if he appealed to you at all, but I was like, this is a very handsome guy.
I mostly wanted to like give him a hug.
I know.
He's got the sad puppy dog look down.
There are also a couple of little weird details, like Eden and David are wearing the same leather bracelet. And then David opens up an 85 Rothschild bottle of wine, which apparently is somewhere between $6 and $8 million a bottle.
Oh my God. And he's like, well, we should enjoy ourselves tonight or something like that.
Yeah, he says something like, you are all very special to Eden, and that means you are all very special to me. What?
My God, if my friend's boyfriend said that, I would be like, get out of here, cornball.
And one thing I like about Logan Marshall-Green's character is he's so sensitive, obvious, and the acting is really good.
Yeah.
You can see how uncomfortable he is and how weird he thinks all of this is. He's not making a lot of eye contact with his girlfriend Kira, which I think is important.
And she's a champ, by the way. I gotta say,
gosh.
like, if this was a real situation, this woman would deserve Girlfriend of the Year. She's talking, like, she's doing all the talking for him, and not in a mean way or anything. She's chit-chatting with all his friends. I was like, man, you deserve a girlfriend raise. You should get a bouquet after this. I don't know. You're a champ.
Yeah, she really is. So Will, out of the corner of his eye, he sees Sadie standing Donald Duck style in the bathroom.
What does Donald Duck style mean?
No bottom. Just the...
Oh. So Winnie the Poohing it up.
Winnie the Pooh style. Yeah, I didn't know which way to go with it.
It's like she's sticking her butt out like his ducktail.
The thing I don't like about Sadie is she's just sexuality. That's all she is. And I don't think anybody is just sexuality. So I feel like she's a little underwritten, and that bothers me.
She seems like drugged up, like, and yeah, just she's kind of like, I don't know, the vibes of like it being in LA and the cultish kind of feeling already kind of gives it the, I almost said Charles Manson vibe, but I feel like that's exactly what she's all of that condensed in one person, but that's not real. Whereas like, and it feels so wrong because everybody else feels more realistic. So she stands out.
Mm-hmm. So throughout the evening, Will wanders through his former home and relives memories, including Eden's attempted suicide. In the kitchen, Will, Ben, and Eden gather. Eden is kind of flirting with Will a little bit or something. She gets very close to him and she's like, "Can you get those glasses for me on the top shelf?" And it's like, okay. So he's like, "Yeah, I can." Like, he's very like,
I love him.
Down to earth and not buying into this like weird flirtatious energy. And Eden starts going on about how pain is optional. And she's really, thriving. She's like living her best life, and it's like very Stepford wife. Yeah, Ben's
very
like,
smiley. That
sounds fucking crazy. I gotta say, Ben is one of my favorite characters. I love him.
Me too. He's a hero.
It is fucking crazy.
That is fucking crazy. You just lost your child. 2 years is not a long time. It's actually no time at all. Like, and Will is the most normal person in this film, and I appreciated that so much more now of like, she's making Will seem like a weirdo for being the sad sack that he is, but he's like, because when we see him in other flashbacks, he doesn't have the same beard or as long hair. So he's really like, I guess the idea is he's really let himself go or something, but it's like the man lost his child, which caused the loss of his marriage, which caused the almost death of his ex-wife. Like, the man has been through like whammy after whammy, and being depressed 2 years after is the most normal reaction you could have. Eden is the one who is being freakish. This is fucking crazy, but like, I would feel so like this immense pressure to not be feeling as sad as I was, and also he's reliving all of this trauma being in this home again. So this man is actually behaving in the most normal way somebody could behave. And I would be so angry if then, my ex-wife was like, well, it's all optional. Yeah. It's not actually.
And I fully agree with everything you've said. And I was texting you when I was watching the film, and saying that I think this is one of the best portrayals of PTSD I've ever seen on film. Like, it's just a very compassionate look at what that looks like. Cause I have PTSD and I could totally relate, like the sound, like how that sound thing that keeps happening in his ear when like voices kind of fade away and he's just like lost. Come on.
Yeah.
So after Ben says, "That sounds fucking crazy," Eden slaps him across the face. And he's like, "Oh, okay. Wow. Eden, that, was ridiculous that you just did that." And she says something like, "Well, if you're just going to make jokes about things, like, that's why nobody ever takes anything you say seriously." And he's like, "Whoa."
Oh hold on now.
So she, goes out of the room, and then I think is one of the sweetest moments where Ben is like, well, I think Will is like, has she been like this all night? And he's like, yeah, her and David both. And then Ben says, how are you doing, man? And Gina and Claire are also his friends, but it seems like they, especially Gina, didn't know how to, talk to him. And that I've been on both sides of that,
Yeah.
where it's like, what do you say? And Gina even says, I wanted to give you your space, but then, if you've suffered a loss and no one will talk to you about it, that's also like the worst feeling.
Yeah.
So I just love this moment with Ben and Will. Then Eden and David's friend Pruitt arrives. This is John Carroll Lynch. And after Pruitt comes in, David locks the front door. And there's a really cool, like, deep focus shot. I love me some deep focus. And Logan clocks this, and he's like, why are you locking the door? And David's like, well, there was a break-in. He tells some bullshit story about there was a home invasion recently. And again, it's kind of like Manson-y. It was like horrifying what happened. Keeping it very vague. And I don't know. Did it sound like bullshit to you? What did you think?
Yes. And then I love this moment because like David totally big dogs him by being like, well, I keep the house differently because, it's my house. And I just love that of how, Will said earlier, it was never mine. And now we have David like with a possessive arm around Eden, like, well, it's my house. So, whoa, okay.
But what I like about that too is that Will doesn't take the bait.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. Like, I don't even think he says anything verbally, but there's a close up on his face and he's fine. He's like, yeah, it is,
Yeah.
But then after the it's my house comment, Eden's like, Will, would you go get some firewood? You know where we keep it.
Oh my God. It's like such a masterful moment of just like, what the fuck, man? Like, leave this guy alone. Leave him alone.
So Will goes outside for the firewood and he can see into Eden's bedroom. She's come into her bedroom and apparently she's hiding pills in this bedside table.
And this actress, I feel like we maybe a little bit disagree on the acting because I actually really like her acting because I feel like this does seem like a woman who's doped up, like, and who is just, I don't know, like the kind of like uncanniness works for me because she really seems like she's on something. I feel like she does that very well. And like, that would again make me so fucking angry. Because also we've seen like Will kind of pointedly not drink anything all night.
Right.
And so it's like he's dealing with raw human emotion right now and not numbing it in any way. And now you have Eden saying, well, pain's optional. And we see her popping pills. I would be livid,
Mm-hmm. I think that's such a wonderful thing. Like I did notice that he keeps, refusing alcohol. And there's no mention at all that he's in recovery or anything. All we know is that, like you said, there's no buffer. He's dealing with everything straight on. David and Eden tell their guests about a cult-like group they joined, along with Pruitt and Sadie, called The Invitation, which helps people work through their grief. And then we get the video in which the group's leader, Dr. Joseph, comforts a dying woman as she takes her last breaths. The guests are pretty shaken by this.
Gina's like, we did not just watch somebody die. It's like, we are having they haven't even eaten the dinner yet. And we've just watched a woman pass away on film. Mm-hmm. Excuse me?
And Will is like, I'm just wondering why you would play something like that at a dinner party. And David's like, well, because it's important. We want to show you how, the invitation works and everything. And Kira's like, no, it's pretty fucked up, David.
I love her.
I do too. She's amazing. Now, this is a little weird. I'm not really sure what to make of this. I wonder what you thought. Some people come to the door And Will is trying to see what's going on. There's some kind of conversation that David has with somebody at the door. But I'm not sure what that's all about. What he says is people were looking for a party on foot, which is again very Manson-y.
Yeah.
But
I feel like, I guess based on what we see in the ending, maybe it's other people, you know, in the group who maybe the cleanup crew or something. And I don't know, something. But yeah, that is kind of weird. I guess it feels more like just a moment to kind of be like, things are kind of weird here, right? But it doesn't really fit in and doesn't really make sense when you know the whole story.
Yeah. I did read the script. And so when we get to it, there's something that is not revealed in the film that is revealed in the script.
Interesting.
So, as this is happening, it also offers a little bit of a distraction for Will to ask Miguel what the pill is. Now, I did like this moment a lot because I thought it might suggest that Will had abused drugs because he's holding the pill in his hand, you know, and it's sort of like that moment, like, do I take this? I could, you know, he could easily pop it in his mouth. But instead, you know, he's like, hey, Miguel, do you know what this pill is? And he goes, it's a pill, Will, like, and he's like, yeah, no, it was in Eden's room. And Miguel's like, dude, like, don't go in your ex-wife's bedroom and like rifle through her stuff. But he tells him that it's phenobarbital, which is, it's a painkiller. It's not prescribed anymore. It's kind of from the 70s, you know.
Add to the Manson-y.
What does your t-shirt say?
Gay station. One time I forgot and I wore this to my old job and I had like a jacket over it and my boss who I later learned, he said that he played GameCube for a week when he was in college, and then he said it took up too much time, so I decided never to play again. And I was like, we are fundamentally different people. But he just went, he goes, do you play? And I was like, oh, PlayStation? Yes, I do play it. Like, then pulled my jacket over, like, nothing to see here.
So to alleviate the tension, David suggests a game of I Want. And this is sort of like Never Have I Ever, but instead it's like, what do you want? And this is all about like expressing your desires. And so Sadie kisses Gina.
Without her consent.
Yeah, I did not like that moment. Eden kisses Ben.
Like first
Ben's married.
Yeah. And first it's just like a little peck and he's like, okay, we can do one a party, but then Eden goes back for seconds and then he's like, I'm not sure if I like that.
Yeah.
And oh man, this ties back into the whole like respectability thing of just like, that's super inappropriate. Like that is incredibly inappropriate. And all he can say is, I'm not sure I like that with a smile, when what you should be saying is, hey, don't fucking touch me, you know?
Yeah. But he's a guy and it's a party and everyone's drinking and everyone's a friend, you know, and we're all just having fun.
Yeah.
And, you know, Gina's kind of like, get it, girl. And, you know, all this. And it's like, yeah, it's a really a troubling moment.
Yeah.
Actually.
But you don't want to ruin the vibe.
Right, exactly. And then we get Pruitt's confession that he killed his wife.
It does not start off that way. Like God, this moment is so amazing because I feel like I've never been in this specific situation, but I guess it's, gosh, again, to tie back to it, it's like, you know, we have this moment with, and Gina like asks, because I guess David used to, you know, be on coke, and so she asks if he has any left over, and then he gives it to her. So it's like we have three kind of weird moments, but you know, the two with Gina getting kissed and Ben getting kissed, they're both made to be super uncomfortable, but they don't do anything to stop it. And then you have Pruitt come in, making everyone uncomfortable, and I feel like that's just exactly how it goes with the whole not trying to make people uncomfortable thing. Is like, well, people don't care if they make you uncomfortable. So what kind of, and the fact that this is so clearly like a charade, you know, of like, this is weird. This is so weird. And why are we pretending like it's not? and that it's such a losing game to try to be respectable and whatnot, because there will always be people who will just walk all over that. And Pruitt
really
steamrolls all over it.
Steamrolls. I mean, I really think that this is perfect casting. I don't know who else could have delivered these lines. They're like insane.
Yeah.
But he's an actor who can just, take over a moment. And he does it here. And he's talking about how wonderful his wife was. He says something like, she was light. Like, she was just, this beautiful force in his life. Now, as the story goes on, at least I started to feel like this is not a reliable narrator. Because he says, one of us started yelling. I don't remember who. What? I'm sorry.
I think I know who. I don't think the embodiment of light started yelling. He's like, it was over something, every marriage has these fights that last the whole marriage.
Sir?
I don't think that's true.
Point of order.
He's like, it was about the dishes. Oh, the dishes. Okay. God.
So he says that they had both been drinking. Okay, he had been drinking. And then he says, I tried to pour myself another drink. She reached over to stop me, and something just gave.
Bruh.
I turned, and I hit her as hard as I could.
And also, John Carroll Lynch is a very large man. Like,
yes.
If you can, and again, the man himself obviously seems like the nicest man ever, which is why I love watching him in these roles. I'm sure he has a ton of fun, but it's like, you can imagine this character who is a large man hitting someone as hard as he can would be like extremely hard.
But even saying that, I hit her as hard as I could.
Like, the first hit was as hard as you could?
I'm just like, what? That's a weird thing to say, though.
Yeah.
Anyway.
To the embodiment of light that you loved and think about every day.
Anyway, so she died. But before that, he talks about how she had her hand out. He goes, I think she was trying to get back up. Like, dude, but I don't know. You go with it and you believe it. On the page, it's just like, this is insanity. But somehow he pulls it off. It's just really amazing. And then he says, and then she was gone. And he went to prison for this.
So he did his time.
And he also says that he forgave himself. So
great.
It's all fine now. Now, this is sort of a little mini echo of what had happened with the slap with Ben. When Ben comes back into the living room, Eden says, that was just something that happened. I've forgiven myself. I've moved on, and you should too.
Oh, I didn't realize we could just forgive ourselves for hitting other people. And it's so frustrating because, like, in the context of anything real, it's like, people who do commit violent acts, like, should be rehabilitated. That is a real thing we should do. And forgiveness is a part of that. It's like, what he's saying is not 100% like totally illogical, but the way he's saying it is so wrong, and the way he's describing it, this does not sound like a man who is like mournful over something like this, because he also talks about it with such a weird like distance. It's like, he's not crying. He's not like, God, I wish you could forgive me. He's not. And that's all very purposeful of this character's monologue. And so that's why it comes off so disingenuous. It's like, you could have a speech from somebody who committed a horrible act, who now has gone through rehabilitation and came out a better person. But that is so clearly not the situation.
No. And it's so interesting. I'm in recovery. Next month I'll have 28 years sober, which is an amazing and strange thing to say. But right before I came into recovery, obviously I knew there was something wrong. And one thing that somebody had suggested to me was this thing called the Forum. And y'all can look it up. It's a self-help cult. And one of the things, I didn't do it, But one of the things I heard from somebody who had done it was you write out your whole life story and then you repeat it over and over and over and over and over and over for hours on end until it becomes absurd. And you get over these traumas that happen to you by sort of, going through that exercise and realizing, I guess, that just everything's absurd. And it's like, that's
Please.
not, hey, I didn't go through the forum. Maybe it's helped a bunch of people. I don't think it would have worked for me. And one of the things that has worked for me is actually to address things that have happened to me and things that I have done to other people, and come to terms with, both sides of the coin. And to me, Pruitt's thing about how, well, I've forgiven myself, I'm okay with myself today, is just like, buddy, I don't think that's how it works.
No. And I feel like actually that what you said about repeating it over and over, that applies so well to this character because it feels like this is a story he has said over and over. And I feel like the issue I take with that a little bit, obviously with not, his is a very specific situation, but like it seems like you can almost become desensitized to it when these are important things. It's not to say that these are things that you should be whipping yourself for the rest of your life daily, every second, but it's that they are important and they have meaning, and it's not something that you should numb yourself to.
I mean, he murdered his wife.
For no reason.
Maybe he didn't mean to murder her, but he was obviously, an abuser and obviously had rage issues. So it's like, and what we'll see in a moment too, sort of underscores that too. And I really like, not to jump ahead, but I really like his death. I think it was one of the most beautiful things, in terms of like character.
Yeah.
In this film. Well, after all these sort of shenanigans, Claire's like, I don't like this. I want to go. I feel really uncomfortable and I'm sorry, but this is just not my thing. And
personally, I think you should ask your partygoers' consent if you're going to invite like a convicted murderer to the party. I feel like that's a heads up you should give to people.
Well, I mean, Will does say that at one point. He's like, why are you two here?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like, none of us have seen each other. We're all really good friends. You two randos are here. So, like, what gives?
Fair question.
It's all kind of like borderline that, maybe even Kira and David should be there. But, but definitely not these two weirdos. But David is trying to convince Claire not to leave. He's being very forceful about it, actually. And we'll just keep saying, let her go. Let her go, David.
I love this moment.
So Pruitt's like, oh, is yours the Prius? I'm parked behind you. And he follows her out. Now, I had remembered this differently when I saw it before, but we see through the window, he does back his car out, and then she backs her car out, and then she, goes like she's going to go down the hill, and he's like, oh, Claire. And he stops her, and then we don't see the rest of the scene.
Yeah, because Will is very intently looking out the window, and even, I think somebody, maybe Kira even mentioned something, he's like, give me a second. And so then David pulls him away right before we see what happens, and it's like, gosh. And because Will even offers to walk her to her car, but she says it's okay. I mean, I know it wouldn't have gone off without a hitch, but I'm like, why couldn't somebody have walked her to the car?
But David kind of confronts Will now. He's like, hey, dude, I mean, you're really kind of hurting my feelings. Like, I invite you into my home and, you're like really suspicious of my guests. And like, it's like you think that Pruitt's going to steal something or something. Like, what's up with you, dude? Like, just relax. Like, we're here to have fun kind of thing. And this kind of like, this is something that we also run into polite society. And it's just like so abusive, I think. It's really great writing.
Yeah. Making Will seem like a weirdo and like he's ruining everyone's fun when again, he's even without knowing what happens at the end, like he's behaving how anyone should be behaving in the situation. You should stick up for people and you should stick up for yourself. That is how you respect your friends and yourself. And what David is asking is for him to numb himself to everything.
And I think this is the moment where Will says, maybe I wasn't ready to come here tonight.
Which is also so honest. Yeah, so like genuine and truthful.
So this is the moment I was sort of alluding to before. What do you think happens with Claire?
I think she got murdered.
Yeah. Well, that was in the script.
I guess they cut it out.
Not at this moment, but
like they find her body or something.
Yeah.
I guess I thought I had remembered that as being a part of the movie. Like I thought at some point somebody ran out and they found her body, and I just assumed that's what happened.
Yeah, but Pruitt comes back in and he's like, I felt bad about chasing her off with my scary story, but she seemed to understand. Oh, so chilly.
Let him out there with her.
So then we get the dinner scene.
One question: who is making this food? They have so much fucking food. Who is making this food?
They probably had it catered. I mean,
but
was it? If they're opening like $1 million bottles of wine,
that's true. It's like a feast.
Eden or David is like slaving away in the kitchen. But,
no, not coked up Eden.
No, this is kind of an interesting moment. This is where he's dissociating and kind of like not, he can't hear what's actually going on, and these memories are just sort of playing with him, and he starts going, Kira. She he can't get her attention. And then we see him like do a silent scream. And then, cut to he's outside. But, later he'll say something like, I feel like it's a scream that's trapped inside me, like the grief. So then we have the flashback to the barbecue when Eden and Will's kid died.
So did another kid kill him accidentally?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another kid hit him with a baseball bat in the head. But one thing I hadn't remembered, I guess, is there's a scene where Eden is like laying back against Ben on a chaise longue in the flashback.
Yeah.
So
she always wanted to kiss him.
I guess so. But after dinner, Will peers through a cracked door and sees Sadie make odd faces into a mirror.
I don't what was the point of this?
I don't really know.
Maybe it was to because I will say the first time I watched this, I got really worried that he was going to cheat on Kira. Like I thought he was going to have a moment of weakness, and maybe this is supposed to be she's kind of similar to him in a way. Like maybe he sees something, but I mean, it really doesn't make sense.
No, I don't really get it. I think it's just kind of weird and just weird shit.
Yeah.
That doesn't really add up to me.
She could have been cut out of this whole movie, I think.
I mean, I wouldn't have minded if she had been. But she makes eye contact with him. He goes outside, sits by the pool. She tries to seduce him, and he rejects her. And I love it. I love the rejection. He's like, I think you need to leave. I think you need to go back inside.
Yeah.
And she's like, I could make you like me so much. I'm like, ugh, so gross.
And I love, she's like, it's a lot of problems with Kira, huh? And he's like, no. Where did you get that? And just such a great, it's so refreshing. I loved this moment because, the first time I did think something was going to happen just because it always does in movies. And so it was so refreshing that he was just like, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
And that, I think, is reflective of earlier when Eden had asked Kira, is Will okay? And Kira says something like, I think he's doing the best that he can do, which is so beautiful to me.
Yeah, she really sees where he is and accepts him for it.
There's a moment with Tommy. Tommy kind of discounts Will's whole reality, which I didn't love. But I think he's just trying to be a good friend. And he's like, look, of course, it was going to be weird. You feel weird. That makes sense. And you don't feel safe. Well, you're not really on safe footing here, pal. But you are safe and everything's fine. honestly, it's fine. Let's just go have fun in the party.
I do like this though. I mean, it's like that's how it is sometimes. I think it'd be weirder if everybody had a perfect reaction. And I do like Gina's like what we were talking about earlier of her saying like, I thought, because I have like what you had said. I recently have been in Gina's position where I truly did not know what to say to a person who had gone through a huge loss. And I think I fumbled in a similar way because also selfishly, I hate to admit it, but I was uncomfortable, and
Of course.
I wanted them to not that I didn't want them to open up, but I didn't know how to get them to. And so I was like, maybe it's better if I just don't say anything, but I don't think, I think it's better to try and, just show that you're there rather than not be there at all. And, now I'm learning from my mistakes, but that's really real. So I'm glad that they have these moments of the friends also fumbling, because what can you say?
Yeah. I mean, to lose a child is like the most horrible thing that I can even imagine. And then if something could be even worse than that is to lose them suddenly in a freak accident.
Yeah.
Like Will finally gets a cell phone signal, and I hadn't mentioned that before, but that's a weirdness too. That from jump, nobody has a cell phone signal. And there's some weird bullshit reason behind that too. But there's a voicemail from Troy.
Fucking Troy!
This is fucking Troy! And he is saying on the voicemail, "Hey man, I'm here. I'm early. I forgot to get a dessert though. Gina's gonna kill me. But anyway, the voicemail says that he was there and Troy is not here now. So, WTF. So this is pretty disturbing to Will. So Will confronts David and Eden about this.
In front of everybody.
And like, saying you're in this fucking weird cult and what the fuck. And then Troy shows up.
God, this moment is so amazing. And Logan Marshall-Green is such an incredible actor. The like shame and the sorrow he shows on his face. He's like trying not to cry, but like looks so mournful and so sorry. And everybody's just looking at him like he's a piece of shit. And it's so sad. And I love too the detail that Gina is genuinely like, because he's like, where's Troy? Like, and talks about how he had the message, and Gina's like, what is he talking about? Like, she's genuinely concerned for her partner. And I love that because everybody else is like, whoa, I'm sure there's an explanation. But Gina's also immediately like, okay, well, where the fuck is he though? And when she goes to hug him, she seems really like relieved that he's okay. So she was really scared. I just think that detail is so good.
Yeah. So Will excuses himself and he goes into the bathroom. Then we get that amazing, I called it the infinity shot, but he's in the bathroom mirror and there's just like, reflections of him. And it's a really gorgeous shot. But then this is one of the saddest things to me in the whole film. He has a conversation with Kira outside.
Yeah.
And she is being a champ, like, the champ that she is. And she's just like, hey, we're together and I'm here to help you and we can help each other and I love you. And he goes, I love you, but I don't think you can help me.
And also drops the bomb that he's been waiting to die since the moment his kid died. Oof. And it's like, it's so tough because we can understand where he's coming from, but to say that to someone who, I mean, like if any, we haven't seen what their relationship was like, but clearly she's been the one spending the most time with him. She's decided to, get into a relationship with someone who's still going through a lot of grief, but is being, like we said, a champ and seems to be an incredible partner. But this comment hurts her so deeply, like where she just is like, okay, and gets up and walks away. And it's like, can you blame her? Like somebody just says to you, you can't help me. It's like, okay, what have I been trying to do for like however long they've been together, without asking, doesn't seem like she's asking for anything in return, like just is trying to be, and like sticking up for him and
even coming to this fucking party,
this weird ass party, watching his weird ex-wife be all weird with him and not making a stink, like just has been an absolute queen.
So she goes back and joins the party, and Will comes in and he's like, is it okay if I see his room? And, finally Eden's like, yeah, of course. And so there's a beautiful moment with that, too, where he goes in and it's just a really lovely flashback. And I think I started to cry, actually. It's really touching.
And gosh, this movie's so beautiful because when he enters the room, we know it's a flashback because even though it's the same Will, it's daytime, even though it's night during the movie. And he lays in bed and looks at his son. But then we see him in the actual room. It's completely been redone. And the colors are like, it's kind of bluish daytime during the flashback. But when we come back to reality, it's kind of orangish and dark in this completely stark contrast. It's just so good.
We see, or Will sees David light a red lantern in the garden. And then Will finds a laptop with a foreboding message from Dr. Joseph. Toby Huss plays the cult leader, and I think he's a character actor. I think he just does an amazing job. And he's saying, soon all pain will be gone, and there won't be any more sadness in this world. We'll all be together. And he's like, I love you so much. It's breaking my heart. And can't wait to see you. I'm waiting for you. So David and Eden pour drinks for the guests to toast. And this is different. They've been pouring from wine bottle all along. And now they're pouring wine from a decanter. So
these tiny little glasses.
Yeah. And Will notices that. And he freaks out and he's like, no, don't drink it. And he's like smashing all the glasses. And Sadie attacks Will.
She's like, you're ruined it.
And he knocks her unconscious inadvertently in the scuffle. And so people are trying to revive Sadie, and somebody says she's not breathing. And Sadie's okay, but Gina's not.
And we did see her take a little sip as soon as she got a glass.
Yeah, she didn't want to wait. So she collapses. She's foaming at the mouth. Yeah. And she dies.
Which, the one detail I will say, I love this movie. This is stupid because it's not reality anyway. But it's like, from every other, I've watched / read a lot of different things with cults drinking the proverbial Kool-Aid, and that's not how it goes, it seems. Like, there's no, it would be nice if it was that fast, actually, but it doesn't seem like that exists, of like instant death with no, like, because she's like dead. Like, she takes a sip and she's dead, and doesn't seem like that's realistic at all. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of I'm pretty sure the point is that people say it'll be easy, but even that's not easy. It's incredibly painful and hurts. But, it's one small detail.
Yeah. Miguel is trying to revive Gina, and David shoots Miguel, which kills him. And here we go. This is where it all, pops off. And I love the people on Letterboxd who were upset about, this being such a slow burn, and then there's all this action at the end. It is a slow burn. I find this part really entertaining and satisfying, though.
Me too. It's then this slow-mo thing, which I think is so good, and this ringing as everybody just is turning to look, and I just feel like that's just so I don't know what I would do in that situation, but everybody is just shocked, and this whole movie is just the shots and the sound. It just conveys the mood and the feeling so well.
David, Pruitt, and Sadie then start attacking all the guests, and Miguel is killed, Choi's killed, and Ben is killed. My sweet Ben. Will, Kira, and Tommy flee and hide in the house. Will overhears David tell Eden that they have been chosen, and that finishing what they started is the only way they can leave the earth and be free of their pain.
And she's crying no, this is wrong. This is wrong. It wasn't supposed to be like this. And My God. Like, not that I feel bad for her, but like, gotta be the worst high of her life. She just, I think this actress is just, I do enjoy this moment. She's just like sobbing and just, it seems like, I don't know, catatonic. Which she did just watch all her friends die
Well, I
violently.
mean, also she says something like you said, like she thought it was going to be this gentle, peaceful thing, and they were going to be all together, and they just like sip their beautiful drink, and then they just,
Fall
go to
asleep.
sleep.
That's never how it goes.
No, it's never how it goes. Tommy fatally wounds Sadie with a fireplace poker. Pruitt finds and attacks Will and Kira, and this is where Kira proves that she can help Will, and she always could.
Oh, that's such a sweet way to put it. She saves his life. He's like, yeah.
And after this, yeah, he's all in. And he's not a perfect character. I mean, he's a flawed guy, but
understandably flawed.
Once he sees that, and she, oh my God, did she kill, Pruitt? She fucking kills him. And the thing is that I love about this death is Pruitt is just yelling.
Yeah. And like groaning. It's so awful.
Yeah. And he too, had bought into this whole lie.
Yeah.
That it was going to be a soft and gentle sort of passage. And this certainly is not that. Eden shoots Will, wounding him like in the shoulder. And then remorsefully shoots herself in the stomach, and you said you didn't like that.
I didn't like it. I get the symbolism, okay, because we see the beautiful white dress and now she's got blood from her stomach. Okay, she lost a child. Okay, she feels bad. But I'm just like, I cannot imagine a more painful thing than shooting and slow. It's not like she dies way too fast for my liking. It does not happen. I'm no expert, but it's slow. And I'm just like, you have a gun, shoot yourself in the face. Why would you go for the stomach? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Right. It only makes sense so that they can have that moment. But yeah, which is kind of a cheat. I don't like it when writers do that. Like, I think everything should make sense. But yeah, this is just serving that.
Because sometimes people survive getting shot in the head. So why not have just it be like that? Like, I don't know, maybe that would be too unbelievable. But for me, it's too unbelievable that somebody would willingly be like, oh, pop myself in the stomach.
Yeah, yeah. David stalks the survivors with a knife, but Tommy disarms and stabs him to death. That's kind of nice, like tackles him down the stairs. And
they were like, okay, we can't kill both gay characters. They didn't want to fall into the bury your gays trope, and they also did not want to fall into the killing a black person trope. So they tried to nick that in the bud. And I'm not trying to say anything wrong to these writers, but okay, so Miguel, who is, clearly Hispanic, he's a doctor. So I was like, but he has to die because he's the doctor. But but I was like,
the other gay?
Yeah, the other gay, he's smart, he's successful, he's a doctor, and he's a person of color. So even though he dies, it's because he's a doctor. I don't know. I just was like thinking if they were doing all this math of like how not to make an offensive movie. I don't know if that was the case, but it seemed a little bit intentional.
Eden apologizes to Will and asks him to take her outside. Well, she doesn't just apologize. She's like, I miss him.
That was nice.
Like she's finally honest about her feelings. And first I thought her last words were Will, but no, I think she goes, I wonder, and then she dies. Yeah. Which I really like. Will, Kira, and Tommy carry the dying Eden into the garden, where they hear sirens and screams and helicopters overhead. They see more than a dozen nearby homes with red lanterns and realize that Los Angeles is erupting in chaos.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's a beautiful shot. Such a whammy the first time you see it. We had heard some sirens early on. We had seen a helicopter before, but at the end we hear gunshots going off, people screaming, so clearly this is a major event.
Yeah. So I was like, damn, the invitation really got a whole bunch of people.
But the last shot is Will grabbing Kira's hand and saying, Kira.
Oh. I'm glad they lived. I'm so glad they lived.
Me too.
I feel like that's great.
And one gay.
Yeah, we got one gay and a black woman lived. I mean, we got it all, folks.
But don't you think that Will and Kira are going to be fine now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can survive the night.
Right. But I mean, there are a lot of, first responders who, didn't accept the invitation. I mean, there are a lot of people who didn't accept the invitation. It's not like it's a wall of red. There's a lot of people. But the director and the writers had complete creative control of the film, as it was independently produced without any involvement from major studios. This is the second time in which the fate of a character played by Marie Delfino is left unknown. Claire. In Jeepers Creepers 2, her character of Rhonda is thrown out of a moving truck in an attempt to save her life from a deliberate crash meant to kill the creeper. Whether she survived or not has never entirely been confirmed. And then we don't know from the film if she survived.
I wish they would have put that in, actually. I feel like if they could have included stumbling upon her body, I think that would have been great, honestly. I don't know how that would have happened, and that's probably why they cut it, but I feel like that would have been a great moment to tie it all together.
I kind of like it. Like, I thought it was pretty. I never thought that she didn't. I never didn't think she survived.
I mean, especially at the end, you would never think, like, they can't have any survivors.
No. But with the way he says it, I think she understood. It's just so creepy. It's like...
Yeah.
Could be inferred from the wine drinking that the cult is heavily based off of Heaven Gate's cult, in which 39 members of the cult committed ritualistic suicide. However, as we've said a number of times, there seems to be potential influence from Charles Manson's cult, which originated in a time renowned for open and free love. What does Letterboxd have to say about it? Maria Demi 666 gave it a half star. An hour and a half of him standing outside saying, "Something's weird." A half star from One's Perspective. This film requires the top suspension of disbelief. Yeah, it's that bad in every department, with plot leading the way and absolutely no likable, care about characters at the end of the bleak way. If that hapless couple said, "We should leave one more time," I was going to jump into the screen and kick them out.
Okay, jeez.
Half star from Alex01. What I needed during this film was for Dr. Joseph to end my misery.
But
Josh Who Dis gave it 5 stars. This movie is so fucking good. I love it. I'd propose to it. Lord, the suspense. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Ronald the Short gave it 5 stars. Karyn Kusama should be allowed to make whatever she wants after this masterpiece of tension. One of my favorite modern horror films I revisit at least once every couple of years.
I agree with that.
Joel Hamilton Foster gave it 5 stars. Red wine plus red lanterns equals red flags.
Complete with matching emojis. That's great.
What phobia is that? Erythrophobia is fear of the color red. How would we rate it? I guess in line with the movie poster, bottles or glasses of red wine.
4 and a broken one. So 4.5.
Yeah, I think I might have to go back to Letterboxd and revise mine. So I think I would give it the same.
Yeah, because as we said, it's not perfect. I cannot say that there aren't things I would change, but it's pretty fucking close. And it's not like the things that aren't perfect impede my enjoyment in any way.
No, for sure not. What have we learned?
I mean, okay, if you feel like you should go, you should probably go. Trust your gut feeling.
Oh, if you feel like you should leave the party.
Yeah, you should go. Not life. I mean, the party.
I also wondered if you meant, like, if you should accept the invitation.
Oh, don't.
No. Yeah. Listen to the people listen when people defend you and, like, co-sign your reality.
Yeah.
That's a big deal when people do that. Do not take that for granted.
Yeah.
Would we watch it again?
Yes.
For sure. Do you have a favorite scene or favorite kill, Mac?
I mean, in terms of favorite scene, I don't know, hard to pick, but favorite kill would be Pruitt. I would agree. I feel like that one's pretty brutal, but in a good way.
It's real good. It's real good.
And maybe him telling the story is my favorite part, because I just feel like the mood shift, they do such a good job of, like, this kind of weird, like, oh, what the fuck, to, like, okay, what the fuck? You know, it's such a great moment.
Yeah, it goes from people, like, you know, inappropriately kissing each other, you know, to, he goes, I want to tell my story or something.
He's like, I want to talk about my wife. And you're like,
yeah.
And already you're like, okay, all right.
Yeah, I do like the scene with Ben and Will in the kitchen.
Cute.
I think that's real darn sweet. And Jay Larson's not an actor. I mean, he's a comedian, so
he did a great job.
Yeah, I thought he did too. Yeah, I like Pruitt's stuff a whole lot too. And I don't love Tammy Blanchard's acting, but I think that moment where she goes, I miss him.
That's sweet.
That's just like a punch, you know? Real good. Who wins the You Fool Award?
I guess the people in the cult. You can't numb feelings. That's the whole point of being alive. And, like, yeah, shit hurts. Yeah, that's the point. You should instead of trying to numb that pain, which I know the temptation is strong and sometimes it feels like it's too much, but you should share it with others instead of numbing it, I think. And if somebody says they have an easy solution to just getting rid of all of it, they're fucking lying to you.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that. I think that's perfect, Mac. Okay.
Take a little break.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I didn't know if you had a chance to look at the pronunciation for the Welsh.
I did not. Gwledd?
Okay.
Gwledd?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's as best as I could do.
I'm not, it's going to be rough. All right. So our next movie is The Feast, or Gwledd in Welsh. A brief plot summary from IMDb. The movie follows a young woman serving privileged guests at a dinner party in a remote house in rural Wales. The assembled guests do not realize they are about to eat their last supper. Understatement of the year. It was directed by Lee Haven-Jones, written by Roger Williams, starring Annes Elwy as Caddy, Nia Roberts as Glenda, Julian Lewis-Jones as Gwyn, Stephen Kenneth as Guto, Sion Alun Davies as Gwyneth, Rodri Mailer as Iros, and Lisa Palfrey as Mayor Bowen. Cinematography by Bjorn Stale Bratberg and edited by Kevin Jones with music by Samuel Sim. It was released March 17th, 2021 at South by Southwest with a runtime of 93 minutes. So I'm going to try to be good. I ended up just taking on every single piece of thing that happened. So I'll try not to just intensely recount everything, because we'll be here all day. So we begin with a shot of some sort of like nasty fracking business in the middle of this beautiful Welsh countryside, and we see a construction worker pass out. Then on the screen, it says, 1, I want to make a good impression. So again, we see the beautiful green countryside with this really beautiful, intensely, like, very expensive looking house. In fact, I once went in a house like this when I was a landscape designer, and that homeowner was a lawyer. And I felt like I should not even be in, like, it kind of looked like Don Draper's house, not to go back to Mad Men.
No, it's funny that you mentioned that. I thought it looked very 60s.
It does, yeah, especially that,
Yeah.
like, the living room looks like very, very 60s. So we see this really long hallway, down, we go into this bathroom, which is all black brick. You know, it's a very stark contrast from the beautiful, I mean, like, y'all, you could not find a more pretty countryside. And instead we're in this, like, you know, dank, dark looking bathroom. The wife Glenda is wearing like an all black face mask. And then we see Gwyneth, the son, putting on this like bizarre black Borat looking skin tight suit. He is training for a triathlon. Glenda peels off that face mask and, you know, touches her nice new soft skin. Y'all, you can hear it too when she's peeling it off. I've put those things on before. They hurt to take off. So in the Borat shapewear, Gwyneth admires himself in the mirror and like grabs his crotch. We already got weird vibes from this guy. He then sees his brother Guto outside, who's got like a neck tattoo. He looks very like, you know, rock and roll. And he kind of like looks at Gwyneth like, okay, weirdo. And I wrote down parasite window shot because we see,
Yes.
yeah, the house is also very similar with the windows to the house in Parasite, because we see Gwyneth on one side and like this glass wall, Guto on the other side, and the reflection of Guto also in the window. It's very beautiful. So then we see the dad Gwyn, who's hunting outside in the grass, and I did not catch this the first time, but he has a gun. But when we actually see him go upon these rabbits that have been caught, they were just caught in like a trap, you know? Because also I was thinking, why would you use a gun to shoot rabbits? There's barely any meat on them anyway. You would only really use a trap. I've never hunted before, but I feel like guns would hurt the meat. It's not like a deer where there's a lot of meat to go around. Like there's not much on a rabbit. But anyways, just point of order, he did not shoot those rabbits.
Right.
We see Guto with an axe. He spots Caddy, this young woman who's got this kind of like wet hair. You know, she's obviously some sort of like helper. She's got like a white blouse and a black skirt, and she just looks like shell-shocked in some way. Also, this actress is so beautiful. She's got all these freckles. She's got this really beautiful, like, asymmetrical face, which, like, everybody has an asymmetrical face, but, like, it's very stark, but I mean that obviously in a very, like, she's gorgeous.
And all the freckles.
Yeah, they, like, keep, and her green eyes just pop with the background. Oh.
I love the faces of all the people in this film.
Me too. Like Glenda, she very much looks like posh wife, you know, but I think everybody still kind of looks like a normal person, you know?
Yeah, Iroh's maybe borderline, but I like the wife in contrast to Mayer. Mayer just looks like a farmer.
Yeah.
Like she just looks like, I mean, a beautiful woman, but
humble.
Just the contrast. Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So Caddy is here to help with this dinner party, and she's also late. Glenda is like, you know, you're fucking late. You know, I thought you were going to get here when the courier got here. And Caddy this whole time is just silent, very awkward. But we also hear this like weird frequency sound, and it makes Guto drop his axe on his foot, which we don't see the wound yet, but it does not seem pretty. So apparently Gwyn is a politician, and he's having people over. So Caddy needs to help make the food, and she's going to bust the tables and serve. And they were expecting this woman, Lindwen, but she's sick or something, and Caddy works at the same pub. But Glenda is not very happy about this. And the house also has this really beautiful, like, light brick on the inside. So we cut back to Guto, who takes off his boot, and we see the cut. It's not super gross. I mean, it clearly looks deep, but it's not like horrible. It's not as bad as I thought it would be, honestly. Put a pin in that for later. Just remember, it doesn't look that bad.
Put a big pin.
Put a big axe in that.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I took notes because it made me appreciate this movie so much more because I noticed all these things now. So when Glenda she mentions the courier brought all this food, and she mentions like, you know, I try to shop at the local supermarkets, but I can't get exotic vegetables like bok choy. And she'll say things like that a lot, that she tries, but she can't shop locally. So Caddy looks very vacant. She's sent to go get a tablecloth, and meanwhile spies on Gwyneth, who's cycling on a stationary bike that's right outside of the house.
I know.
You've got the prettiest countryside you've ever seen in your fucking life, and this man is on a stationary bike outside. Not a real bike.
Looks so weird. It's just looks so strange and absurd.
Yeah, and like when we see Caddy spy on him, you're just like, yeah, you know what? That is weird. I watched this on Hulu, and I just thought that the ads, one right after the other, were funny. I got Indeed, then BetterHelp, and then Taco Bell. It just says a lot about what they think about me and what I need to see. So Caddy sets the cloth, and then hears a gunshot. I don't know what the fuck Gwen could be shooting. Certainly not rabbits. And it really freaks her out. And me too. It also scared me. So she is like clean and immaculate, but we see she leaves these mud stains on the tablecloth. And when Glenda comes in, she's like, what is that? Like, I swear, if you marked this. But when she checks her, like, there doesn't appear to be any mud on her, but it was clearly Caddy who put the mud on there. So now they have to, you know, get another tablecloth. So then Caddy looks at this abstract painting that's in the living room, and you really cannot tell what it is, but you'll find out later. And she just kind of touches it. It's like the teal, like the light from the painting is reflecting back on her face, and it's really pretty. And, but she's interrupted because we hear this blender noise, and Gwyneth is watching her with the blender, and he's a creep. Like, he's just, and I wrote again, his outfit is so crazy. Like, it's
just, does Cotty put her face up to the
I think she does. Like, she touches it and just kind of puts her face up. And the whole time I'm kind of cringing because I'm like, please, I don't want Glenda to catch her because I know that painting was expensive. Yes. With her little muddy hands. So apparently also Gwyneth is he mentions to the mom he's on a special diet, but Glenda says he still needs to go to dinner. And and as she's saying this to him, he's still staring at Caddy the entire time. It's very predatory. So Guto then goes to take some stuff outside. Caddy then sets the table, and all of the glasses are mismatched, and then kind of like runs her finger on the rim of one of the glasses, and it makes another of the like weird frequency noise. So it turns out Guto was taking like an amp and whatnot outside, so he starts playing music with more weird noises. Caddy then hums and explores the beautiful house and spies on Gwyneth in the bath. He's shaving his body. I mean, windows open. He's standing up. We don't see the front, but we see from the back. He's clearly shaving like his pubes and stuff. And thank Christ we don't see it, but we know that he must have cut himself because then we just see like a drop of blood in the water. Just so weird. And so Caddy then sets the table with some flowers, and Glenda is like, you know, I didn't mention anything about getting flowers. So it's also like, where did she get these? And also points out the mismatched glasses, but she's like, you know, it's fine. So Caddy and Glenda start, you know, de-seeding this fruit. And we learn from Glenda that her mom died and that she didn't keep much, like her favorite dress, her hairbrush, and that they decided to demolish the farm that her mom and dad had, and that she kept all of her mom's things in storage. And once they rebuilt the house, those old things felt primitive in their now super modern house, including her tablecloth. And the house is super modern. Glenda looks super modern. That's a very poignant theme in the movie. So she then gives Caddy this piece of fruit, and Caddy like makes a weird face when she eats it.
What did you think about that?
I thought maybe it was because the fruit wasn't from Wales.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm just putting that together. Yeah, it's like papaya or like guava or like, it's like a fruit that's not, not local.
Which, I mean, I understand what they're trying to say, but at the same time, I'm like, it's not a crime to, eat fruit that's not grown there. But that's the whole theme of the movie.
No, I was just a little surprised. Like, it seems like we don't know who Kadi is yet, but I mean, it definitely seems like she's a simple girl.
Yeah.
And she's connected to the land in some way. We don't really know. At least I didn't know yet, like, who she was. So I thought maybe she just never had tasted, guava or whatever before.
Yeah. Glenda mentions that Guto loved fruit as a baby and she was always cutting it up for him. Turns out Gwyn is a member of parliament, but they spend most of their time in London, which I just found, I personally find that very offensive when it happens in real life. If you are a politician, you should live in the place that you are serving. Why wouldn't you? Makes no sense to not do it. So it turns out they only really live in Wales in this beautiful house that is more expensive than more money than you and I will ever have in our life. It's just like a summer house. Fuck these people. So then Glenda starts beating this pomegranate and kind of hurts herself a little bit. So then Gwyn brings in the rabbits, and Caddy is super upset when she sees these dead rabbits. Like, they freak her out. And Gwyn kind of introduces himself and then says something so rude. It's like, I don't like Glenda, but I certainly like her more than Gwyn, who's like, don't know why she needs help for a dinner for 7 people. And she's like, okay, well, I'd like to see you make a 3-course meal. And that shuts him up because, I certainly could not make a meal for 7 people. That's a shit ton of people. 3-course meal? Are you kidding me? Like, that is a lot of people for one person to make a meal for. So it's apparently Caddy's job to skin the rabbits, but she can't do it. She runs outside. She freaks out. And so Gwyneth and Guto both run outside to help her. And Gwyneth tells Caddy that his dad likes whales so that he can kill innocent creatures, but that the only people he wants to kill are his political opponents and his parents. He had an unhappy childhood. I do not like Gwyneth. He's clearly supposed to be a bad guy, but I do love how much him and his brother shit on their parents. I feel like it's deserved. And then Gwyneth kind of like touches her, touches her shoulder or like her hair, and she's like, do not touch me. We then see Glenda is skinning the rabbit. She's disappointed because Lindwyn skins rabbits at the pub, so she thought Caddy would be able to do it. She's like, don't tell me you're a vegetarian. But Glenda knows how to do it because she grew up on a farm. Caddy's shirt has mud on it now, so she's like, okay, go get a replacement for my closet. And when Caddy's in Glenda's closet, she finds this beautiful floral dress, kind of like looks at it, puts it back. And then she looks at Glenda's jewelry. And I wrote that it reminded me of the handmaiden scene with, the servant girl, like putting like trying the stuff in the mirror of like, this isn't mine, but I get to live in this fantasy for a second. And I love that scene.
You know what happened in my brain just now? When you said handmaiden, I thought Elizabeth Moss, and I thought of Us, the scene in Us.
Oh.
But yeah, I totally get what you, because of the silent scream again, or the silent laugh, or whatever's going on.
Yeah, because Caddy like is looking in the mirror, and again, like this is where I feel like this casting and so many use of the mirrors is so good because her face is so asymmetrical. Like it's very a stark contrast when we see her in the mirror, and she tries on these earrings and just like laughs. It's very, because we haven't really seen this girl smile at all. Let's see. And then she also kind of looks at her shirtless self in the mirror and looks like she's kind of admiring her body, and even kind of like grabs her crotch in a very similar way, which is interesting. But it looks like I feel like looking at her body for the first time in a way. And then we see another, it fades to black again and we see 2. You'd better watch out. So Gwyn is just drinking in the daytime, as you do. And Glenda seems kind of like his secretary. She's telling him, this guy called you. He thinks you're avoiding him. And, you've got all these things to read. Well, it's a part of the job. And he goes, it's not a job, Glenda. It's a privilege. I wrote, shut the fuck up. I hate this guy. And he then walks through the hall and just starts casually undressing, as you do. And but when he goes into his room, Caddy is exiting and he's just like blocking her path. It's very weird. And he goes, can we be friends, Caddy? I want to be your friend. Fuck off. Caddy just silently walks away and hums, and then we hear that frequency again, and it begins to hurt Gwyn's ears. Good. So then, as Caddy is like kind of putting together these hors d'oeuvres, she's singing this song where the lyrics are, "You'd better watch out," like the little title card. And when Glenda walks in, she's like, where have you heard that song? I haven't heard that song since Mom. And then her and Caddy just start singing together, and it's genuinely very sweet. It's such a sweet moment. And they're giggling and they're laughing, and then Gwyn ruins it. He walks in and he's like, well, Glenda always wanted to start a choir. Maybe Caddy can be the first recruit. Like, he just has a way of putting her down. That's so horrible. When she's literally doing all of this for him, it's really disgusting. And Glenda just sends him away and the moment is ruined. But Caddy continues humming. And then also when Glenda walks away, Caddy sneaks a bite of food. So Gwyn goes through Guto's things to find a lighter. We find out Guto had a drug problem and that, the dad said, well, I had to get a call from your girlfriend when you were on the ground with a needle on your arm, blah, blah, blah. So he's not allowed to go back to London because, he's so shameful. But then Guto says, 2 sons, both brought shame upon the family. Maybe you should shoulder some of the blame, Dad. And significant, this is actually the first time he has said Dad in the whole movie. He's always called him by his name. But also it's like, well, what did Gwyneth do? Shame? Both sons have shame? And then we see him cleaning the cut on his foot. So Glenda gets ready in the same mirror that Caddy was and listens to that record with the song, You Better Watch Out. She clearly is feeling like old and wrinkly. I mean, which is ridiculous because this woman is like so beautiful. But, she does that thing where you like pull on the skin on your eyes, which like anyone at any age could do, ladies. Like, don't do that and think that you look old. Like it's fine. And she begins to put on the same earrings that Caddy had, but then decides not to. And puts on these like white, long, more modern ones instead. And so then as she leaves, she's wearing this beautiful blue dress. Her hair is all done up and she can't find Gwyneth and begins to freak out. And she's like, where's Gwyneth? Has anybody seen Gwyneth? And then finds Caddy and she's like, hey, have you seen Gwyneth? Like, clearly is worried about them being alone together.
Yes.
But Caddy's like, no, I haven't seen him. And she's like, okay, great. I wonder if that's to do with the shame. And then we see more of Gwyn being in pain because of the weird noise. So then there's this, I'm not a fan of these parts in the movie. There's this crazy supercut of like Caddy eating dirt, spinning. Right. There's like the fracking again. I'm just like, this isn't necessary. It really takes you out. It's
totally agree.
It's so stupid. It makes me mad actually because it's not the only time it's going to happen, and it makes me mad every time. So then it begins to become like dusk. Caddy and Guto are talking outside, and it turns out the land was their grandparents, and it used to be a farm. Caddy's just kind of silent the whole time, and Guto's like, you don't really talk much, do you? No, that's okay. A lot of people say a lot, but don't say anything at all. And I think Guto is genuinely like a sweet boy. He's like the nicest guy in this movie.
Yeah, they're all sinful, I guess. They all have different sins. I guess he's a drug addict.
But I find that pretty offensive.
But I don't think that same.
Yeah, it's like, that's a disease. Like, that's not That's not a moral failing, you know? And to suggest that it is pretty fucked up, I think. Like, he's clearly a guy who needs help, and his only desires are to go, like, he says he wants to go back to London because he wants to go to clubs and bars, but he clearly wants to be around people. Like, that's what he wants. And I don't think that's a crime, you know? I don't think it's a crime to not want to live in the country. Like, not everybody does. And he says to Caddy, like, well, do you ever want to leave? And she's so confused, like, why would you want to? Well, some people don't want to live in the country, and I think that's fine.
Yeah, I really felt like I missed something with his character.
Same.
Like, I feel like I understand what they're going for with the other members of the family, and Iros, but I did not get what was going on with Guto. And so I was just wondering if I missed something in his backstory.
You didn't.
But
because it just seems to be, oh, you do drugs? Well, you're bad. No, you're not. And again, like, he's a genuinely sweet guy. Like, he's so nice. And his only issue is that he has an addiction. That's not, again, disease, not bad person. But that's not the only issue this film has. But yeah, Guto says he wants the big city life. London is his true home. And then he asks what Caddy does for fun. Soda? Vodka? And she just is like, no. And he says that he needs something to get through this night, or else he's going to kill his parents. He's obviously joking. And he asks Caddy if she has anything. So she beckons him and walks away. And they go to this really beautiful, mystical looking forest. It's so pretty. And she goes to this giant trunk. Like, it kind of looks like a dead wood, you know, in the middle of this area. And just starts grabbing all these mushrooms and gives it to him. And meanwhile, Gwyneth is spying on them. So the first guests arrive, Euros. He immediately drops his wine. And okay, I want to say, I really like that they did not cast a fat person for this role. Because this guy is clearly supposed to be some form avatar of like greed or something. And I just feel like it could have ventured into some offensive territory that would have been distracting. But I genuinely like his character and what happens with him later. And he's like the skinniest guy in the movie, but I feel like it works, you know. And I just want to point out, I just feel like a lesser film maybe would have just been like, oh, guy who likes to eat a lot, fat guy, you know. But I feel like it was a great choice to just have this very skinny dude in this role. I don't know. What do you think?
And when I think you're right on the money with that one. And when you say that he dropped his wine, he drops a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
That, like, immediately, like, oh shit, man, like, I brought you this wine, and like, you know, it's like in the driveway, like, it's, you know, completely smashed.
And like Caddy's like sitting outside and he's like, oh, does Glenda know you're slacking? This guy's an asshole. But he's kind of one of my favorite characters. And so Gwen is like, well, Caddy, you clean this up. And takes a look at these pieces of broken glass, sticks one up her vagina.
As you do.
And again, clearly her body is not real in some way because there's no blood or anything. You cannot just do this. This is not a thing. And she grabs a pretty big glass too. But
yeah, there's a still of this. I mean, if you Google images from this film, you'll probably see it where she's like looking at this piece of glass, and it's about the size of somebody's palm or something. It's not a small piece of glass, and she's just sort of like looking at it. I did not know what the fuck was happening at that moment. I was like, wait, what?
There's so many parts in this movie that could be cut out. Like, do not need to be there and are just there for shock value. And I'm not a hater of this movie either. Like, when I first watched it, I was like, okay, you know, it's fine. After taking the notes, I was like, I see what they're doing here with a lot of it, and I genuinely appreciated the details. But there's so much that's just like this, kind of like we said with The Invitation. This is just in here to be like, that's crazy, right? You know?
Well, that will come into play later.
But I don't
it's part
feel like
of the plot.
Necessary.
I mean, screaming into the mirror, like making faces in the mirror, that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
But it's like, this makes sense, but I feel like it could have been done in a different way, and it's just there to make you squeamish.
I don't know. I was kind of like, what the fuck, actually? Like,
In a
why
good
did she
way?
do that? Yeah, no, in a good way. Like,
Okay.
why did she do that? Like, yeah, and it made me think, like, is she real? Like, is
Mm,
she a human person? Like, what's
yeah.
up?
I just wasn't like a super big fan. I feel like that will be a lot of the things like people just remember from this movie when I feel like there are
Mhm.
a lot of better things to remember, but this kind of takes the spotlight because it's so what the fuck, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um So then we get Gwyn talking to Euros, telling an amazing story about how he shot these two rabbits. You know, one was running across the bank and then the other one. It's like I missed this the first time I watched because I just wasn't really paying attention. But then when I was like, he didn't shoot anything. um,
Hmm.
and so yes, Euros is their guest, and Gwyneth and Guto, you know, kind of commiserate before going down to eat some dinner, and they're like, Guto's like, well, we need to go laugh at his joke so that he'll open up his wallet, and they want the inheritance, and um, and Gwyneth was like, well, but you know, our parents, they're never gonna die because they're like vampires, and Guto's like, well, we could just leave, like we could just go right now. What could they do? Caddy could drive us, and Gwyneth is like, did you guys fuck when you were together? Did you touch her? Did she touch you? And Guto's like, dude, what the fuck is wrong? Actually, never mind. You know, I feel
Mhm.
so bad for Guto. Like, he should not be lumped in with these freaks. Like,
Yeah, I
he
agree.
wants to leave and not because, like, it's not a crime to not want to live in the country. I'm sorry. It's like it's not for him. And he wants to leave this corrupt area, which is what he should be doing, right? And yeah, I feel really bad for him. He's a victim in this story, in my opinion.
Now wait a second, just one second.
Yeah,
Gwyneth like a doctor
he was
or
studying to
something?
become a doctor.
And he's the rapist, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Um, and also Euros is drinking some wine and finds some hair in his mouth. There's so many scenes.
That
There's a little bit like why?
okay. I mean, I never need to see that ever again. It was fine in Raw and it made sense in
Yeah,
Raw.
but this is like
But
why?
this is like, why is there hair inside his? And then he doesn't say anything, and nothing is ever made of
I
it.
thought that was very weird. Of like you're at like this guy would say something,
For
would
sure.
100% make a stink about it, but nothing happens. It's just there to be like, that's gross, right? And yeah, it is. So then another title card 3. There's a feast awaiting us. So now it's truly dusk. Euros shows this map to Gwyn with a whole bunch of mining potential. He's the fracker. He's the fucking fracker. So he mentions, well, a worker became ill this morning, so the mining is temporarily postponed. Um, but uh, and he says, you know, but you've been supportive of our operation. This house is a testament to that, and even kind of slips Gwyn some money, like cold hard cash, and so basically, Gwyn and Glenda are letting this guy mine and search for minerals on their land, which is obviously gonna, you know, ruin it, because they just want money. So apparently the drill went super deep and they found caves that contradict their geological info and that there is more potential near the neighboring farm. So Meyer is our next guest, and like we said before, she is a way more humble in, you know, she's just wearing this nice blouse, you know, she's got kind of rosy cheeks. Um like she just looks soft and nice. She's got short blonde hair. She has known Glenda since they were children, and she has her husband Yuri, and they are farmers. So they use the land, and they live off of it and they make money with it, but you know, in a sustainable way.
Mhm.
Yori's not there because a car went into their lake and he's helping the police. So Caddy listens to this and just kind of trails some more mud on the wall. So Caddy then meets Mare, but it turns out that they know each other. Meyer says, "You used to go to the chapel. I was so sorry for your loss." So then Caddy gets some food from the fridge and then pukes in it?
Yeah, again,
Why?
I was that was the not the most disturbing thing, but my thing with vomit. So I was just like, oh guys, come on.
Like, it just doesn't, there's so, like, when I see again what they were going for, I like a lot of it. I like a lot of it, and I appreciate it. But there's so much that did not need to be in there. And again, is just there to be like, oh God, don't forget this is a horror movie. Quick, have her puke in the food. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a funny scene because she just kind of like sniffs it, I guess, finds it gross, kind of pukes, and then kind of like looks.
It's in the trailer. She kind of like
moves it around.
If you it's in the trailer, so
yeah, it's a shot for the trailer. Yeah. Which is stupid. So then we cut back to Guto in his room. His foot is now super bloody when he checks on Lord. It. And he just eats all the mushrooms. It's like, what is his crime? That he is clumsy with an axe?
I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something with this character.
I think just the movie makers hate people with addictions. I think that's his crime against humanity, is having issues.
Does he like mush up the mushrooms and like inject himself with the mushrooms?
First, he just eats a bunch.
Okay.
So then we hear Meyer explain that Caddy's dad worked building wind turbines and just got killed in a freak accident. And apparently, we then find out Gwyneth used to be studying to be a doctor. And Meyer, so he's now also training for a triathlon. And that's what Meyer assumes made him quit his studies. But clearly that is not what happened.
No.
But I don't think she's being an ass. I think she genuinely is like, oh, so I always see you riding your bike. You're training so hard for this triathlon. That must be why you're not studying to be a doctor anymore. And everybody's just like, sure. Yeah, that's it. And Gwen's like, well, he'll resume after he's done. And then Glenda shows Meyer around the house and says, well, they tried to shop locally for materials, but it wasn't always possible. Excuses. I love this scene. Glenda then shows Meyer the dark bathroom and is like, this is my oasis from the world. Oh, the beautiful world outside your door? And Meyer is like, it's different. It's like a cell. She's trying
She's
so
not
hard.
wrong.
Yeah, it looks like a jail cell. And Glenda goes, well, it's a retreat from the world. You're in a retreat from the world right now. Like, what are you talking about? But I think it's a great detail. Like, this woman is just not on our plane of existence.
And I mean, yes, Glenda is just sort of, it's hard to describe her.
She's consumed by, like, wanting nice things.
Appearance of things. Yeah, but she doesn't have, like, connections to her husband or to her kids or to the land. She's just sort of, like, separated from all of those things.
Yeah. And then we see this red feather falling. And it seems like only Glenda can see it. So then Caddy goes outside. I don't know where she's getting all this free time because she's supposed to be working. But she goes outside. She's on all fours, lays down in the grass, rolls around. She's like one with the earth, and this grass is like slithering around her and then binds her. But again, I'm like, when are you doing this? Like, you're working right now. But then we get another title card for She Mustn't Be Awakened. So dinner is served. Euros is voracious. This man loves to eat. And I love the way this actor's physicality is. He's just shoving this like food in his mouth. That's why I'm so glad they didn't cast a fat actor, because I just feel like you can just focus on the fact that this guy is just like clearly greedy. Like, he needs to consume. And that's it. There's no other connotations with it. Gwyneth has, like we said, his own food, and Guto teases him about it, and Caddy watches.
Because it's raw meat.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's like just raw beef or something.
And Guto's just like, ew, it's fucking disgusting.
It is.
Like, we literally,
it's disgusting.
in the Welsh, he still says fucking disgusting, which I thought was great. Gwyn asks if Yori still shoots, you can have a trained eye, but you need to keep practicing. Bitch, you don't even practice. I'm so glad I rewatched it because all these moments just make it so like, you motherfucker. Like, he's talking down to Meyer, being like, well, he's got to make sure he still, keeps a steady hand. As if he just must have shot a shot into his sky, like when the gun was fired earlier. So then Glenda brings up that, farming must be a full-time job. That must be really tough. Gwen says, yeah, we all need to take care of our health. I had a heart attack, and Gwyneth goes, Dad, you had a peptic ulcer and now they gave you medicine and you're in less pain now. You were never in danger of dying. And Gwen just is like, yep. Mm-hmm. So again, it's like, this guy sucked. Gwyneth is like a horrible person, but this is the only parts where I'm like, if you just were like this, that'd be fine. If you could just be mean to your dad more. So yeah, actually this is the scene where Guto's like, what the fuck is that? And Guto's sent to his room for being so rude. And he is acting super high because he's just like, whatever, I'm leaving. And then he chops up the shrooms, puts it in a drink, mixes it, puts it in a syringe, injects in the good foot. And it was so, the way that they cut these shots, it was unfortunately so clear that, obviously you should not get an actor to actually put it, but the chopping, I don't think the editing was very good on this scene because it just was so clear that they were like, well, like they did not find a good way to do a practical effect or something. So they just like cut out any time where he would actually be injecting or like moving it around, which I thought was kind of sloppy, unfortunately. But it does not seem to feel good because he just kind of lays down and is like, ugh. So I don't think that's how you feel when you're high. I don't think you're supposed to go, ugh. So now at the dinner, the shot is like from behind Meyer. She's still eating and everyone at the table is just looking at her because she eats slowly. But then she's like, well, actually, I had enough. And they're like, well, you need to save room, right? Because there's still the next part and dessert. But it doesn't seem like she likes the food that much either. So then Euros gives the pitch. He's like, well, I help small businesses find ways to make money with their assets. Well, that's one way to put it. And Gwen is like, then tries to explain, again, like Meyer's stupid or something. He's like, well, you and Yuri have assets on your farm, like, the tractors and the cows and whatnot. But you could diversify, go beyond farming. Euros made us money. And Glenda says, well, yeah, we had 300 acres of farm from, mommy and daddy. And Meyer then goes, you're responsible for the mining work? And so they're trying to get Meyer and Yuri in because they need their sign off to go into their land. And they want license to explore so that they can mine in responsible ways. And then brings up again that they must be tight on money and just start pressuring her. I love this scene. I think it's great. I love the way that they dance around it when clearly it's like fracking or something. And yes. Meyer's so not interested. And they're just belittling her, being like, well, you want to be able to retire, right? Like farming, that's hard work, isn't it? But she's so not down with it. They say she deserves to retire. And then Gwyneth starts choking on his food. Nobody fucking knows the Heimlich, I guess, because Glenda's like, do something. Gwen just starts patting his back. But then Caddy rushes over, pulls his head back. That's not what you're supposed to do, folks. Sticks her hand down his throat and saves his life. That's, the Heimlich, that's not what it looks like. Glenda then thanks her and then asks her to bring a plate to Guto and is like, and you'll be getting a bonus for tonight. Yeah, for saving your son's life. Like, and I just think that Glenda's actress is so good because whenever she feels like she has to be nice, she then like love bombs, like she's super like, Caddy, I just want to say thank you so much, whereas before she was a total asshole, but that's how people are in real life when they want something from you.
Yeah.
I think this actress is pretty great. I feel like
I do too. I think she's the best. I think the woman who plays Caddy is great, and yeah, the cast is great, but she kind of stands out.
Yeah, for sure. So Guto's like tweaking One more thing. Glenda goes to grab more food, drops the pan, and then notices dirt tracks from Caddy, and it's kind of like, okay. So Guto's fucking tweaking. There's blood everywhere, and he asks Caddy for help. His leg has maggots. And now the whole calf, is red. She starts licking his leg, and he's screaming, but for some reason nobody hears him.
Also, it looked more like paint, like powdery paint. It didn't look like, pig's blood or whatever people use for blood effects.
It didn't even look like blood.
It looked weird.
It looked dry.
Yeah.
So Gwen and Glenda are getting fucking drunk and even like tease each other about it. Gwen's like, that's why I love her. She can really put it away. What? So Caddy comes back and Gwen tells Caddy to sing for the table. He's like, well, you did it. Well, you're so shy now. You were able to sing earlier. And I do think the actor who plays Gwen is very good at being just a disgusting man. Like, this is so patronizing. It's so gross. And Glenda's like, dude, stop. But then the frequency starts hurting his ears again and Caddy just walks away. And then Gwyneth follows. And then in the hallway, she then hugs Gwyneth. They start making out and she whispers in his ear and they go to the forest. Mm-hmm. So then Glenda shows Meyer the painting. It turns out it's an abstract map of the land. She's like, this woman I think is also pretty good at being just like a silly drunk. She's clearly toasted and says, what I would have liked more is the vacation than the $10K we spent on this. $10K for the painting? So then explains that they would drill in 1 to 2 areas, 1 to 2. The rise is where they would drill, and they want the vein through Meyer's farm. Meyer instantly gets super serious. She's like, leave the rise alone. And Glenda's like, what are you talking about, the old story? And Meyer's like, no, that's where she's resting. Glenda says, do you mean that old story that they used to tell to scare kids? And Meyer goes, she shouldn't be awakened. Glenda says, nonsense, and shame on you for believing it. And Meyer says, you know what? I'll go. I'll just leave then. And Glenda says, but I made a pavlova. Do you know the work it takes to make a pavlova, woman? Best line in the whole movie. And then Meyer, we don't see Meyer, but we see just the shot of Glenda's face as Meyer says, your mother would be ashamed if she saw the person you've become. Oh, fuck. And then Gwen, his ear starts hurting again. So Caddy takes Gwyneth to Guto and tells him to chop Guto's leg off. Turns out, we learn from Guto that Gwyneth raped the patients in his hospital. I didn't catch that the first time, but that's what it was. So that's why he got fired, because he assaulted his patients in the hospital. Pretty much like so disgusting. And then Gwyneth and Caddy have sex. And I wrote down, they show us the glass scene again, as if we could forget that she put glass up her vagina. They cut back. I just feel like the cutting back is so unnecessary.
Yeah, it is really weird. It's like, okay, well, I didn't get why she put it up there until now, so she can kill him in the worst way.
But it's like why show us again?
Let me seduce you and chop your penis off?
But then then it's weird because it's like they're still fucking and she's like, go deeper, and like he clearly seems in pain, but not like, oh, I'm fucking a vagina full of glass kind of pain.
I know, it's just like so weird. I mean, I don't think this would fit. Like, we were looking for movies having to do with magical realism. I don't think this is like a contender for that at all.
No.
But it's just like weird, and like there's an unreality, obviously, to what's going on, and everything's an allegory. Okay, we got it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I didn't get what was happening there. Like, he is in pain and they keep fucking still. And I'm like, but if it wouldn't, I mean, if his penis is being chopped off, that's not just pain. That's like,
I'm dying.
Yeah.
And
he will die of that.
Yeah. And, And I just think it's so stupid to cut back and show us her putting, like,
yeah, we got it. We're not dumb.
again, like, as if I could forget that she did that. Oh, what? I fucking forgot she put glass up her vagina. So stupid. Another title card. Sleep in peace, dear child. Sleep quietly on your mother's breast. Well, Gwyn is passed out. Euros is stuffed. Glenda then sees like her mom's visage in the window, which I think is such a good shot because it's clearly the actress in old woman makeup, but I think since it's kind of like just a reflection, it looks really good. And then like her face matches up perfectly with the reflection, and she goes, "Mom?" She then goes outside to look for her, and Meyer comes back. And Glenda's like, "Oh, you came back. I was worried." And Meyer just says, "They pulled the car from the lake. It's Caddy's car. They said if she returned, she'd need a body to live in." Okay, so yeah, we already got Caddy's obviously not of this world, but she's dead. The Caddy we know, or the Caddy everybody else knew, is dead, and her body's just being used as this entity.
And now it kind of makes sense why her hair was wet in the beginning. Mm-hmm. That was bugging me. I was like, what? Why did she show up to this job
wet?
Like, with wet hair?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So then Caddy, we see her covered in blood. She began, I love this shot. We see her hands taking veggies off of the skewer, and then it fades in Gwyn, who's resting on the bed. Like, we see his head turned up. So just a little bit of foreshadowing. I bet you, try to figure out what happens next. Still hearing the ringing in his ear, so he begins to crawl, and she approaches him with the skewer. Then he's in the dark cell bathroom screaming, and she closes the doors.
That's a nice shot.
Yeah, that one was pretty good. So now the kitchen's empty. Euros returns because he was taking a smoke outside. Just grabs some veggies to eat because he's still hungry. I love this because he's got his back turned, or he's facing the camera eating the veggies. Glenda comes in behind him and just goes like, I can't find anyone. Have you seen, Caddy or anybody? He's like, no, still eating. And she just grabs a knife and then exits stage left. And he has no idea what's going on, but she's freaked out. Caddy is humming. Glenda finds Guto's bloody bed. And then Caddy sings that same verse from before. Sleep in peace, dear child. Sleep quietly on your mother's breast. The shower is on. Gwyn is clutching his ears and his head is in her lap. And she's just kind of like brushing his hair. He then takes the skewer from her hand and puts it in his own ear to stop the ringing. Glenda then finds that same flowery dress from before laid out on her bed. And she then puts it on, goes outside, and then calls the kids home, kind of like hearkening back to another time of like, kids, please, you need to come home now. Gwyneth wanders back with Guto on his back, and Glenda screams, "I told you never to go to the rise. How many times have I told you?" Which I thought was great because we didn't know that. We haven't heard of the rise until Meyer says not to go there, but we didn't know that Glenda genuinely told her kids never to go there, which I thought was a great detail. So the boys collapse. Gwyn pushes the skewer in, and then Caddy pushes it deeper, and he goes limp. And she continues humming. Glenda then goes to put on makeup in the mirror and puts on those earrings that Caddy had on. We then see Euros eating like a hog. Like he's got no hands, just head down in his plate, just eating. Glenda then cuts up a slice of, I believe, Guto's leg, kind of like a Christmas ham, and then pours it all on his plate, and he just scarfs it down. And we see that the tablecloth must be the one from the storage because it's more of like a traditional pattern. So I wrote down is also this like a climate change metaphor? Like she's sacrificing her children's future for this like avatar of greed who's happily eating it up because you should be preserving the earth. Everybody should preserve it because you should preserve it, but especially I feel like the idea is if you have children, you're leaving them a worse world, which why would you do that? So then we get the last title card, 6. After you've taken everything, what will be left? So Euros is passed out. He groans and he's tied down. We then see this shot. I do love this shot. Glenda is on the table with a shotgun pointed at him and shoves it in his mouth and says that line, after you've taken everything, what will be left? So now she's like a mama bear protecting her kids and shoots him. So then we see Caddy in front of a fire. There's all this carnage in the kitchen, and Glenda rips off the tablecloth. Caddy then wheelbarrows in some logs with Guto, Gwyneth, and Glenn, and then Glenda screams and then cuts her neck with the knife. Caddy then burns the whole family, and then I wrote, stupid cut of all the gross scenes. They need to fill time. Like, it makes me so mad. It's just this giant supercut of every nasty scene in the movie. It's like, I just saw that. Yeah, I know that happens because I just fucking watched it, you stupid piece of shit. So then Caddy walks through the field at dawn. She goes to the construction equipment, looks at the sky, laughs, and then looks directly into the camera. Whoop-de-fucking-do.
All right. When were you out?
At the first supercut. I thought, this is so stupid. I thought, this is boring filmmaking. Compare this to the and again, that makes me mad because there are beautiful shots in this movie. Genuinely, I feel like the skewer fading in with Gwen's face was amazing. I was like, what great foreshadowing. I'm so nervous. What's going to happen? I know that's going in his ear. I can't wait to be freaked out by that. And I really liked Glenda in that dress. I thought it was a beautiful dress, and the colors were a nice contrast. It looked like the bouquet, that Caddy had put on the table, and even Euros eating all the, stuff off the plate. I thought cutting the leg was stupid, but him eating the stuff off the plate, I thought that was fine. So it's like, there's potential here, and then it's ruined by stupid cuts. Like, those jump cuts are something like you would make if you were making a YouTube video tribute to this movie, Like, a first grader could do that in Windows Movie Maker. Why are you as a filmmaker doing it? Sad. But that's why I'm frustrated, because I think this movie had potential.
I think I was in until the last title card, and then I was way out. Yeah. I'm like, oh, come on. Yeah, more. Even just seeing it, once you've taken everything, what more is there to take or whatever? I was like, come fucking on.
Yeah, I get it.
I got it. I've been getting it.
Beat me over the head with it.
Oh, gosh. And I really hate the look into the camera. Oh,
I hate me look into the camera. Okay, great. What am I supposed to do? Okay. You want me to go shoot some people? Okay, fine. Give me the dress. I'll go. I'll save a bullet for myself.
I feel like the beginning is very hypnotic, and I really was in.
Yeah.
I was like, this is pretty. I don't know what's going on with these brothers. This woman is super weird. Is she high? What's up with her? And
I thought that the dinner scene, the actual dinner scene with Meyer, I thought that was all great filmmaking. Yeah. All of them looking at her, the dancing around the subject, then Meyer revealing I thought that they wrote that scene first, and then they wrote the movie around that.
Also, I don't know anything about Welsh folklore, so I would really like to know, I wish I had known a little more about the story,
Yeah.
But
it doesn't inspire me to want to learn more, honestly.
I was going to do some research, and then I just didn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, once you're done, you're kind of like, well, okay, time to get on with my life.
Go watch The Invitation again.
Yeah, let me go watch The Invitation again. Well, here's some trivia. The house used in the movie is called Lifehouse, designed by famed architect John Pawson and located in Llanbester, Wales. It was used also in the horror movie You Should Have Left from 2020 with Kevin Bacon. Well,
Have you seen it?
I don't think so. That doesn't ring a bell. I feel like I would have remembered a Bacon flick. Well, what does Letterboxd have to say about it? Sophie gave it 5 stars. Like if Parasite had a Welsh, good for her, folk horror baby. I wouldn't put, I'll put Parasite in that.
I don't think you should
But like
Yeah.
in 2 shots, it was
Right.
because Parasite also had green background and glass. I think that's about where the similarities end for me. Val gave it 5 stars. She ate. And then Renata May followed that up with another 5 stars. She ate. Actually, she didn't eat. It was Euros who ate, to be technical about it.
I know, really, if you want to get it. Yeah.
This person's name. Movie Poop Shoot gave it a 1/2 star. Did you know that politicians are bad? I didn't until this film heavy-handedly told me like a 15-year-old who thinks they've uncovered a big secret. That's fair.
Not wrong, yeah.
M gave it a 1/2 star. This is down there with Mother for me as some of the most god-awful allegories for womanhood and life and shit. Fuck the Welsh. Okay, I don't know what else
It's like that seems to be a trend on Letterboxd, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if it were a French film, they were like, "Fuck the French."
Well, French people are fair game.
Well, but
it's like I'll say I didn't necessarily get that from the movie. Like I mean, clearly Gwyn is a horrible father too. Like they say that multiple times of the kids being like. And I thought the line from Guto was great of like, you know, you've got 2 kids who are shames upon your family. How about you take some responsibility for that?
Right.
Like, so I don't think they're just putting the onus on women, you know? Like,
no, I thought they meant that Kadi represents womanhood.
I guess. I mean, it's like Mother Earth is a thing.
I thought she was the Earth.
Yeah. So I don't even think, I mean, I thought, obviously, not only women have children, and not all women can have children or do have children. Yes, I'm trans. But it's like, I personally don't hate the idea of like Mother Earth and stuff. Like, I think it's pretty powerful to have, you know, women who are, you know, historically pretty, you know, disenfranchised to be such paragons of like, you know, like you create life, you know, we need to respect this. Like, I feel like that's a good thing, personally. I don't hate that. No,
I think it's hard to find. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to find another representation of what the Earth is to us. I mean, it gives us life. It sustains our lives. You know, we should respect it and not trash it. I mean, it's all because of we're dependent upon it, and
yeah.
So right, but and I haven't seen Mother, and I'm not real interested in seeing Mother. Not the Mada, like this is Mother with exclamation
mark. Yeah, the Jennifer
mark,
Lawrence one,
which apparently is like so like okay, like
I've heard that too.
Like, yeah, that I don't really have a big interest in watching it.
I feel like I'll just watch it to be like, okay, yeah, those people were right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, Quinn told me you don't need to watch it.
No.
So
listen, yeah.
I know there's like a baby that's torn in half, and I don't ever really need to see that, but I would if I. Sorry, spoiler for anyone who wanted to see Mother
I think
with an exclamation mark. Just watch the Bong Joon-ho Mother.
Way better experience.
Oh Lord, yeah, without even seeing.
Yeah, you don't have to see a baby get ripped in half. Is only an upside. Adam Review gave it a 1/2 star. Great reminder as to why I don't like horror. Didn't figure out what was happening till the film was flipping over. Oh, Adam. I'm sorry you hate it. It's not all like this movie, Adam.
Summer child.
Well, what phobia is that? Mycophobia is fear of fungus or mold. Well, how would we rate this? Dirt stains?
I like it less than I did.
I'll give it 2.5 stains of dirt.
I think I gave it 4 on Letterboxd, and then as we started talking about it, I'm like, well, it's for sure 3. And now it's a 3. I don't, but I'll
2.75 is our mixed review.
I didn't like it.
Yeah. I'm frustrated because whenever something could have been better, that's what's frustrating. If something is shit from the get-go, you at least can say, well, they never had a chance. But I think this had a chance. and I think it just fumbled the bag. Would we watch it again? 2's enough. So I'll say a firm no.
Nope.
What have we learned? Well, I guess if you do drugs, you're bad and you should die. And you're on par with rapists and with people who destroy the earth. Really, that didn't hit me until talking about it today.
Okay, I'm. What were you? Because I'm
2.5.
That's offensive. That's offensive.
Yeah.
And not just, I don't think it's just because I'm a recovering alcoholic. I think it's just just patently offensive take.
Yeah. Like, Guto did nothing wrong. Change my view. Guto did nothing wrong. His leg should not. Again, his crime was being clumsy. Sorry? Like, what should he have done differently?
Oh, well, what was he chopping?
Logs?
I guess he shouldn't have chopped the trees.
But then Caddy used those same logs to burn the family, so Mother Earth doesn't care about using them.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's not clear. There are so many bad people in the world. Like, couldn't you have chosen
another deadly sin? Yeah.
Yeah.
Stupid. Favorite scene and/or death? I will say any scene with Glenda besides the whole ending. After she puts on the dress, I'm out. But like, I think that the buildup is pretty good. Like,
yeah,
I think she's the best actress in the whole film, and I think she carries. And I really like the conflict between her and Meyer. I feel like if the movie was just more of that, it would have been great. If we just explored this woman and why she fell so far, into this life of greed and taking things for her own gain, and explore the complex relationship between her and her husband, that is infinitely more interesting than glass up the vagina and, injecting mushrooms into your foot.
Also, and I know it's because I just watched Saltburn, and that also talks about a severely dysfunctional family. But I mean, and I know there are dysfunctional families. But it just seems like there's no love in this family whatsoever. And even in my fucked up family, there was love sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like it's like such a stupid way to tell a story, when your characters are that one-dimensional.
Because that's what would make it so painful, is if you have glimmers of light to show you what could be, which is why this movie's so painful. Is like, if you show even just a modicum of like love or affection, it will then make it so much more brutal that they don't have that most of the time,
Right.
But they just never had it. So why wouldn't Guto want to leave? Why is he a criminal? Like, who would want to be here? Who would want to be in this house? I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Who wins the You Fool Award? I guess.
Us for watching
watching the movie. Me for thinking a movie called The Feast would have made a good pairing with The Invitation.
It is a slow burn. And that is a dinner party. I mean, it's really more eco-horror, but I mean, it does involve it. And there are some really pretty shots. The shot of Cody, like, looking through the glass.
Yeah.
Is very pretty. And, like, the cinematography and whatnot is very nice, but it's just not enough.
Yeah. To make up for the schlock.
Well, thank you, Mac, for having these conversations with me about these films.
Thank you.
And thank you, Woho, for joining us. What's the next line?
It means
Thanks
the world...
for all your support. Oh. It means the world of war to us, truly. Next time, we're going to be looking at Creepy Dolls with Deep Red from Italy and Child's Play from the U.S.
Yippee!
Remember, Wohos. I'm sorry.
We've been going for a while.
Yeah, I know, but I have an intro, but I don't really feel like I have an outro. So I'll just say, remember, Wohos, we love you, and don't go into the basement.